Good evening, everyone. I'm Angie Haver. I'm one of the 3 guidance counselors with Bellefontaine High School. I want to welcome you here to Bellefontaine. Thank you for coming, and hopefully you get a lot out of today's presentation. This is the Logan County Financial Aid Night. It is, believe it or not, our 39th annual Logan County Financial Aid Night, brought to you by all of the county schools' guidance departments here in Logan County. So I'm sure you saw all of the counselors represented outside: Benjamin Logan, Indian Lake, Riverside, Ohio High Point Career Center, and of course Bellefontaine. So thank you again for coming. This evening we're going to have Brian Albright and Matt Kirksey from the Ohio State University Lima branch present to you an overview of the financial aid process, some important information to know, how to identify and understand the reports you're going to be getting from colleges as students complete their financial aid process. Before I do their introduction and before we get started, I would like to also share another opportunity with you that we are offering as a Logan County school system hosted by Indian Lake High School. And so I have Valerie Rapp with me here, and she's going to share with you a little bit about FAFSA Help Ohio.
Hello. So along with all the changes that are coming with FAFSA and financial aid this year, in the past, Indian Lake has been an area host for what was known as College Goal Sunday, and it usually happened in February around the Super Bowl. And so with the FAFSA deadlines being moved up, they changed that. And so now it's called FAFSA Help Ohio. We're going to host that again this year. It's going to be November 10th from 3:30 to 6. In the Indian Lake High School Media Center. It's open to anybody who wants to come. We'll have Matt Kirksey from OSU Lima coming, some financial aid counselors from Rhodes and Ohio Northern. And just a side note, Riverside has conferences that night, so they are going to host one at Riverside as well that Mrs. Hughes says she would like for Riverside students to attend there. So either way, if you could hit one of those to get some help with your FAFSA from college financial aid counselors, we have 2 options for you that we hope will be helpful. There's a flyer, so if you plan on coming, if you could just send me an email, let me know that you're planning to attend, that would be great.
Thank you, Valerie. Okay, and to introduce our speakers this evening, as I mentioned, we have Brian Albright, and he is the Director of Enrollment Services at the Ohio State University Lima campus. Brian has been doing college admissions and financial aid for over 15 years, so a wealth of knowledge he brings to us. And then Matt Kirksey has been doing financial aid for over 8 years. So we want to extend our gratitude for them coming, taking time out of their evening on this beautiful night. Also want to thank everybody here for coming in instead of being out enjoying one of maybe the few sunny days we have left this fall. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Albright.
Thank you. Good evening. So we're going to go ahead, and I know I'm going to hit the wrong button. Oh, here we go. Great. So the biggest question that we're going to answer for you tonight is, what is financial aid? How can I get financial aid? What is my financial need? How is that determined? So what is financial aid? Financial aid is a variety of funds to assist students and families to help pay for college. Parents are responsible for contributing to their dependent child's college education. As well, students, you also have a responsibility in contributing as well. So let's talk about how is your financial need determined. So first of all, we start with the cost of attendance. Every university and college has to come up with a cost of attendance. It's federal regulations by the U.S. Department of Education that every institution has to come up with a cost of attendance. So a cost of attendance is going to include your direct cost, like the tuition that is posted, and also room and board if you're planning to live on campus and also take out a meal plan. So those are your direct cost. Your indirect cost would be like your books and supplies for classes, expenses such as phone, clothing, transportation, entertainment, health insurance, off-campus housing, food. When you're in college, you're going to want that pizza money. So it's taken all that into consideration. So the total cost of attendance to attend that university or college. So you have the total cost of attendance, and then when you actually fill out the financial aid form, and we'll talk, between Matt and I, we'll talk a little bit more about the financial aid form and what that is coming up here soon. But when you fill out that financial aid form, it's going to come up with an EFC. Who's ever heard of that EFC term? All right, there's a few. Well, EFC stands for Expected Family Contribution. So when you fill out the financial aid form, it's going, with all the information that you put in there, at the end, it's going to tell you what your expected family contribution is. As a family, what should you be able to contribute to your education? So it determines what the student and the family are able to contribute. The EFC is calculated from information provided on the aid application. And it is the same no matter what school that you apply to. Your EFC is not going to change. Your expected contribution is not going to change. So you have your cost of attendance and your expected family contribution would equal your financial needs. So let's say the cost of attendance at an institution that you're looking at is $20,000. You fill out the financial aid form, and your expected family contribution is $10,000. So your financial need is $10,000. So with federal grants, loans, federal work study, scholarships, and whatever the institution or the state can provide you to help make up that cost, to help make up that financial need that you have. Sometimes we're able to fulfill a student's financial need through institutional funds, and if you qualify for enough aid, through federal grants, federal loans, federal work study, state grants, and those types of things can meet your financial needs. So that is how your financial need is determined. A great resource that all colleges and universities will have on their financial aid sites is something called the Net Price Calculator, where you can actually go onto their financial aid website and you can actually put in the information such as income information, your grades to see what kind of scholarships you could get, and then it also, the university will have their cost of attendance, so you can actually get an estimate of what you might have to pay out of pocket and what you could actually receive in financial aid. So it's a great tool that should be on every school's financial aid website. So I just wanted to point that out to you. So I just mentioned a bunch of things: grants, federal loans, work study. What is all that? I think everyone knows what a loan is. You're taking out money. You're taking out money from a bank. Eventually, you're going to have to pay that back. But let me talk to you a little bit about grants and work study and those types of things. So you have your need-based aid, which is awarded based on financial need. And then you have your non-based aid, which is awarded based on the student's ability, talent, and criteria such as grades, your ACT scores, GPA, class rank. Those are all non-need-based aid opportunities. So you have gift aid. Everyone wants gift aid, correct? We all want scholarships. So awarded for academic merit, skills, and unique criteria. So what you get on that ACT score, how you do in high school with your GPA can all make a big difference and can earn you scholarship money. We all want free money, right? Who doesn't want free money? And then grants. Grants can be awarded based on financial need. So if you do have financial need, you could qualify for a grant. And grants free money, nothing you have to pay back. So if you qualify for a grant, that is fantastic. And then you also have self-help, such as loans where you can borrow, the student can borrow, or the parent can borrow to help pay for college costs. And then, of course, I'm sure a lot of the students will have summer jobs, and you can earn money during the summer to help pay for maybe books and living expenses while you're attending college as well. So sources of financial aid. They come from the federal government, and some that are through the federal government are grants. Grants are free money, nothing you have to pay back. You could qualify for the federal Pell Grant. And you know how I made mention to the EFC, the estimated contribution, that EFC. If that EFC number is below $6,000, there's a good chance you're going to qualify for the federal Pell Grant. And the federal Pell Grant's free money. It is $5,900, I believe, for coming up for next year if you qualify for the full Pell Grant. The Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant is another federal grant program. It is a limited funding program, so each school has a specific amount that they can award. So those students that apply for financial aid early have an opportunity to be awarded that grant program. And then there's also a grant called the Teach Grant. Now, with the Teach Grant, if a student doesn't follow through with the requirements of that grant could become a loan. So that is one program that you sort of want to watch out for, that if you don't follow through with the steps with the Teach Grant, that grant could turn into a loan. And then there's also the federal Parent Plus loan. So parents have an option of applying for a federal Parent Plus loan to help their son or daughter through college expenses. And then there's a couple student loans. There's the federal Stafford loan. There's an unsubsidized and subsidized. Now the difference between the two, the subsidized is 0 interest while the student is in school. So there's no interest accruing on the loan. Now the unsubsidized, if a student would qualify for the unsubsidized Stafford loan, the students wouldn't have to pay on that interest, but the interest will start accruing on that loan as soon as they start school. They don't have to make payments on that interest, but if they want to, they can. They don't have to. It's just accruing interest. Now the good thing about federal student loans and the parent loan is that the loan interest rates are fixed at a low rate. So the Stafford loan, both the sub and unsub, they are fixed at 3.76%. And then the Parent Plus loan is a little bit higher. It is fixed at 6.31%. With the Parent Plus loan, the parents do have an option. They can defer payments until after the student graduates, or they can start making payments on that loan right away. Another federal loan option is the federal Perkins loan that a student could qualify for. That is also a limited funding program, so students that apply early for financial aid and that meet the requirements could also be awarded the federal Perkins loan. That has an interest rate, I believe, fixed at 5%. So the federal loans do have low interest rates. They're fixed. That means that they're not going to jump up and down. Of course, if you're offered a federal student loan, you do not have to accept that loan. It is there as an option for you to utilize if you wish to take it out, but you don't have to. And then the last thing that's listed on here is employment. Federal work study. If a student qualifies for federal work study, that is money that is set aside that the student can earn by working on campus. So the student can get a job on campus, maybe working in the library or working maybe in the admissions office, giving campus tours to prospective students. So if they're working on campus, they can earn that money that they got through federal work study, and then they just get a weekly paycheck or biweekly paycheck, and they can use it for living expenses, they can use it for pizza money, food money, whatever they want to use it for. I can tell you that offices around campus love to hire work-study students because it's not coming out of their department budget, it's coming out of the student's financial aid. So if you qualify for federal work-study, strongly encourage you to utilize that. There is a question, and Matt's going to probably mention this, but I'll throw it out there again. When you're filling out the federal aid application, which is called the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and Matt's going to go in depth, there is a question on there that says, are you interested in work study? I would strongly encourage you to mark yes, because if you mark no, or if you mark I don't know, then the college or university is probably not going to give that work study money to you because you didn't mark yes if you qualify. So definitely mark yes that you're interested. You don't have to take it if it's offered to you, but it is something that will help if you're looking to get an on-campus job to help pay for expenses that you can utilize. The state of Ohio also offers grants and scholarships. So grants, again, free money, something that the state of Ohio offers, that if you qualify based on your financial need could be the Ohio College Opportunity Grant. There is also a couple scholarships. One is the Ohio War Orphans Scholarship through the state, and also there's some self-help opportunities. I know the Ohio National Guard offers full tuition scholarships, and also there's an option for nursing education assistance loan program through the state. So there's some options through the state as well to get financial aid assistance. Institutions, universities and colleges also a lot of times will offer some type of gift aid or grant aid based on the student's financial needs. So on top of what the state and the federal government might award you based on your financial need, a university or college a lot of times will award you based on your financial need as well. So there's additional aid that you could get from the institution to meet your financial need. External, I can't stress enough, students, apply for as many scholarships as you can. Check with your high school guidance counselors that are out there tonight about scholarship opportunities. They get a lot of information about scholarships that are out there within your community, local organizations, churches. Maybe there's scholarships here through the high schools. Definitely check into that. You can also do a scholarship search online, but when you're searching online, when you're applying for any type of scholarship, if they ask for money, that you have to make a payment to apply, then that's more likely a scam. All scholarship applications should be free to apply for. So there's a lot of opportunities that are out there, so take advantage of that. The more scholarships, the more it's going to reduce your college expenses. Okay, now how to apply for aid. There's really one application that you need to complete, and I mentioned this earlier. It's the free application for federal student aid. So that'll determine what type of grants, not scholarships, grants, work study, federal loans that you would qualify for through the federal government and the state as well. It is required just about by all institutions. Every year you do have to reapply for financial aid. Again, it's a free application for federal student aid. It's a free application, so make sure when you do apply that you go online and go to FAFSA.gov, not FAFSA.com or FAFSA.org, because they will charge you on .com or .org. You want to go to FAFSA.gov, G-O-V, to fill out the application. Now there's a couple other ones. The College Scholarship Service Profile. Some colleges use that as an additional financial aid form. So on top of filling out the free application for federal student aid, they might ask you to fill out that form. And that form just provides the college some more information when they determine what type of gift aid that they might give you through the institution. So there's really 4 main steps to receive financial aid. Number 1, okay, let's say you go online, you fill out the FAFSA tonight. You go online, you go to FAFSA.gov and fill out that FAFSA. And you can list up to 6 different colleges, actually 10 different colleges to have your financial aid, your financial situations information sent to. Those colleges are not going to award you any financial aid until you take care of step 1. Step 1 is actually applying for admission and being admitted to that institution. So even though you fill out the FAFSA, you list up to 10 different schools to have your FAFSA sent to, the school isn't going to send you any financial aid information or scholarship information unless you apply for admission. So make sure, and now is the perfect time, assuming everyone in here are seniors, so seniors right now in high school, this is the perfect time to apply to all the institutions that you're looking at. Maybe you're looking at 4 or 5 schools. Make sure that you submit the application for admission this fall, within the next month or 2, because colleges and universities are going to start awarding scholarships in financial aid, probably starting here in December and January. So right now is a great time to apply. Step 2 is create your FSA ID, your Federal Student Aid ID. And you can do that right now by going to the website, fsaid.ed.gov. This is basically, it's a password that you make up. This is how you sign your FAFSA online and all other financial aid documents online. So you're going, we live in an electronic world. Everything is done online now. So you do a lot of your financial aid paperwork will be online. and you actually sign it with your FSA ID. So students, you need one, and then parents, one parent needs an ID as well. It used to be something called the PIN number. That PIN number no longer exists, so parents, if you had other children that have gone through the college process and you filled this out before and you had a PIN number, that PIN number is no longer. You will have to apply for an FSA ID, a Federal Student Aid ID. And then once you've established that, that is your electronic signature, that is your password, and then you can use that if you have other children coming up later on going through college when you fill out the FAFSA. So parents, your FSA ID would stay the same, but students, make sure that you do this first. So when you're filling out the FAFSA at the end, you'll have to sign it with your FSA ID. So then step 3, so you've applied for admission to several different schools, you've got your FSA ID, and now you can fill out the FAFSA and submit that FAFSA. And make sure you go to FAFSA.gov. And this is what it looks like. And you can actually start the application and save it and then go back and submit it later if you're waiting on some information. What's the biggest change with the FAFSA, it always was available starting January 1st of every year. Now it's going to be October 1. So it's officially available now for parents and students to actually submit, go online to submit the FAFSA. Step 4, I added an extra step. Again, I can't stress enough, apply for scholarships. So the colleges and universities that you guys are applying for have lots of scholarship opportunities. Make sure that you're applying for those scholarship opportunities. So beginning October 1st, which was just 2 weeks ago, the 2017-18 FAFSA is now available. And when you go online to fill out the FAFSA, all the income information that they're asking for and asset information is all based off of 2015. So it's using all your financial aid records from 2 years ago. So everyone should have already done your taxes for 2015. So it should make it much easier. Everybody should have that information to submit the FAFSA. Where years past, it wasn't available until January 1st, and they had to use the current year income information. So everyone was trying to get their taxes done as soon as possible to get the FAFSA submitted. So this is using 2 years. So for the 2017-18, this is just a graphic. So if you look, for those students that are currently enrolled in college right now for the 16-17 academic year, when they filled out the FAFSA back in January and February of 2016, they used 2015 tax returns. Now, you guys and those students coming back to school for the 2017-18 academic year, and when you're submitting the FAFSA, you're also going to use 2015 tax information. So everyone should have that done. So it's going to give families an opportunity now to actually receive financial aid award packages from colleges and universities much sooner, and so you'll have a longer period of time to basically compare cost and make a decision that best fits you and the family. So now I am going to turn it over. Well, before I turn it over to Matt, I just want to make one comment here, because he's going to go more in depth to filling out the FAFSA. Because we're using tax returns from basically when we're using tax returns for the 2017-18 academic year from 2015. So in 2 years, your financial family situation could change. You could have maybe a parent had a loss of income because they've been laid off, or they lost a job, or maybe you've had outstanding medical bills that have come up because someone in your family has been ill. Those things happen. So if that happens, obviously it's not going to reflect in 2015 income and asset information. So what you'll need to do is contact the financial aid office at the school or schools that you're looking at, tell them about their loss of income, and then they can send you some paperwork to fill out and some documentation that they'll ask for, the colleges will ask for. Then they can reevaluate your financial information and possibly give you additional aid. So just I wanted to point that out, because obviously it is using your income and tax information from 2 years ago. Things could change. So if you do have a loss of income, contact your financial aid office, and they can provide you with some information and possibly make some adjustments for you to get some additional aid. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and he's going to talk more specifically about completing the free application for federal student aid.
Thank you. All right. So what's required on the FAFSA? Basically, what we want to kind of verify is your citizenship status, what state you live in, your selective service. So for the gentleman in the room, if you're turning 18, make sure that you are registered with the selective service. That's one of the requirements to receive financial aid. And it's really simple. It's normally just a form you either mail in or you can go on their website and fill out some information about yourself to get registered for that. The FAFSA also will ask what your parents' education level is, high school, college, things like that. They want to know what degree you're going to enroll for. So if you're enrolling in a bachelor degree program, associate degree program, grade level, so you all be first year students. And then also, again, as Brian mentioned earlier, are you interested in federal work study or not? Again, we just suggest that you say yes to that question, even if you're not sure, because you'd rather open yourself up for that opportunity in case you want to in the future. Also, date of birth, social security number, tax information. If you worked a summer job or something like that, you would report how much you made at that job, you and your parents. Untaxed income, we'll go into more detail about what exactly that might mean. Any investments you hold, you or your parents, again, stocks, mutual funds, things like that. Household information, including if you have other siblings in college, they want to know how many people in that household are attending college that year, and also who all sort of lives in the household. So, assets, it'll ask you if you or your parents have any investments or real estate properties. So what they're looking for when they ask that question is the value of any rental property. So it would not be the home that you live in, but anything that you might use for rental purposes. Also, if there's a trust fund in either the child's name or the parent, then that will be included. Money market, mutual funds, stocks, certificates of deposits, any type of savings account or prepaid tuition plans like 529 savings plans and things like that. That's what that question is looking for when they ask how much assets do you hold as a family. As far as what's not going to be included in that number, again, I mentioned if you, you would not include the value of the home that you own, that you live in for the family. If you have a life insurance policy that's not included, any type of retirement plan like a 401k, they're not asking for that information. If you live on and operate a farm, that would not be included in that question on the FAFSA. And also if you own a small business that has less than 100 employees, they're not asking you to report that income or the value of that business. Just a little more detail. So for a trust fund, let's say I don't have access to that money until 10 years from now. The FAFSA still wants me to report the value of that fund. If I am a part owner of a business, let's say I'm 50-50 partner, I'm only going to report my half, not the entire value of that business. And then just one more thing. So for assets, let's say I have $1 million in the bank, but I receive Social Security income. So what the FAFSA will do in that case is I still have to report that I have that money in the bank, but as you see at the bottom here, if you are receiving a federal benefit such as Social Security or like a food stamp program or something like that, they will not consider that asset in the calculation of your EFC. So there is a lot of logic built into the FAFSA that sort of recognizes special circumstances such as those. And there's a couple others. So if the parent was eligible to file a 1040A or EZ, if you're a dislocated worker, it sort of takes your assets out of the picture. And also if the parent's income combined was under $49,999 for the year, it would not include any assets in the calculation. So dependency status. So that's pretty much going to determine if a student will need the parent's information or not. So most students under the age of 24 are going to need their parents. There are some situations that will remove the parent from the process. For example, if the student is, again, over 24, if they're married, if they have a dependent of their own, if they're a veteran, active duty, if they're enrolled in graduate school, then they would not need a parent's help for the FAFSA process. If they're an emancipated minor and they're in legal guardianship, some other cases there as well. So basically, most students who are under 24 will need the parent's help, but there are some cases where the parent will be excluded from the process. One small note here as well, if you are in a situation where you feel like you shouldn't need your parent to help you out, that is something, again, as he mentioned, you want to talk to that particular school's financial aid office about, because some schools approach this differently than others. Some are more lenient, some are more strict. So you definitely want to have that conversation with them if for some reason you have difficulty with the process with your parent. So the FAFSA a few years ago added what's called the IRS Data Retrieval tool. Basically what that's going to do is allow certain applicants to link their FAFSA directly into the IRS database of tax information. So it makes it a lot simpler. It takes out the guesswork. I don't have to have my taxes in front of me. I just need to remember what address I filed my taxes from, and it'll basically import all my tax information for myself and my parent straight into my FAFSA. Easy peasy. It takes the guesswork out of it. I don't have to remember my AGI or how much taxes I paid and things like that. So obviously that's a very big time saver. It saves you from having to look over your taxes. You just plug in your address and it comes over directly from the IRS's website. If you see that option on the FAFSA, definitely go ahead and utilize that tool. Another small note here, each school is going to have a priority deadline that is going to be very well publicized on their website as far as when they want those FAFSA applications in. For example, Ohio State's priority deadline is going to be February 1st of 2017. So if, for example, your FAFSA is submitted and we get it on February 2nd, you just disqualified yourself for a lot of money, let's say. So we don't suggest that you wait, obviously, to get your FAFSA in as soon as you can. That way you don't have to worry about the internet going down or somebody not being able to submit it by February 1st. Don't wait until January, just get it done now. As Brian mentioned, it is available as of October 1st, so it should be fairly simple to go on and start this process and start plugging around. If for some reason you can't figure out what to do on your FAFSA, the financial aid offices right now are accepting phone calls for most schools, so you definitely can call in and get help as far as your FAFSA completion is concerned from that aspect as well. Again, with your FSA ID, if you're a dependent student, you will need an FSA ID and also one of your parents to actually sign the FAFSA. So make sure that, as Brian mentioned, you would both get an FSA ID. And you can't share those. So again, both the parent and the student would need one. So coming in the door, every student is pretty much going to be eligible for some form of financial aid normally. So how do you keep that financial aid? Well, it's important to remember that in order to keep financial aid eligibility, you have to have a certain GPA, and you also have to have a certain credit hour completion rate, and also a credit hour load pretty much for certain programs for financial aid. So each school is going to have a different standard of what we call satisfactory academic progress. So I can't just sign up for school and get financial aid and not pass any of my classes, because eventually I'm going to get terminated from my financial aid, okay? So it's important to look at those policies and know what the school's academic policy is in order for you to keep the aid that you work so hard to get. A few common mistakes on the FAFSA. One thing I'll point out here is it's last name first. you know, you would think that's easy, but sometimes that can throw people off. Social Security number, double check it. And sometimes you don't commit it to memory until later on in life, so make sure you have your accurate Social Security number. And then one more, you'd be surprised the FAFSAs that come back, the male or female box is either not checked or they checked the wrong box just by mistake. So just make sure you're checking the boxes properly. It will ask you your U.S. citizenship status. So there are going to be maybe a handful of options there. Make sure you're picking the right one. Again, gentlemen, you are required at 18 to register with the Selective Service, so you definitely want to make sure that if you are not registered yet, what I would do is just go on the Selective Service website and just go ahead and fill it out really quickly. But if you do say no to that question, it'll ask you, do you want the system to go ahead and register you? So it really won't hurt you too bad if you do it that way. But again, it's really easy on the website as well. Let's see what else we have here. So household size. Some students always ask, okay, I moved out of my parents' house. Do I still have to include them in my household size? I don't live there anymore. The answer is yes. If you're a dependent student, the household size is going to be you and your parents automatically. And it'll also include anyone else that that parent is supporting financially. So if you have other siblings, they also would be in that household size. So you don't have to live under the same roof. That's just how it is, okay? At the bottom there is going to ask how many people in the household are in college. For a student, let's say your brother is also in college, and also your parent, one of your parents, okay? So for this example, for example, it would be 2, not 3, because as a student, I'm only going to count children as in college, okay? But if I'm the parent and I'm filling out my FAFSA, I would count myself and my 2 kids. So my FAFSA would say 3. Does that make sense pretty much? So for a student, only students are going to be in college. For a parent, everybody would count. Again, this is the list of just the dependency questions. Again, most students right out of high school, all of these answers will be no, meaning you will need then your parents' information on the following screen. However, there are some special cases where one of these might be yes. So definitely read the questions very carefully. They can be worded, you know, a little bit tricky, so make sure you read them very carefully to see if they qualify. If you might want to say yes to that question or not, and then it'll give you more information at that point, depending on which question you say yes to. Keep in mind, if you say yes, normally a school is going to want some type of documentation to back it up. So if I, for example, if I tell the court that I'm in legal guardianship of maybe a grandparent or an aunt or something like that, you definitely would need some type of documentation normally from the school. From the court to provide to the school. So another change recently that came up on the FAFSA, it used to be if I lived with my parents and they were not married, I can pick one or the other to put on my FAFSA. But as you see there, now it says if my parents are unmarried but they both live together, it's going to ask for both of the parents' tax information. So that's just another little small change that they made here. So basically, if let's say one of your parents is also remarried, again, that step parent would have to provide tax information as well to complete the FAFSA process. And this is the page that is going to ask you for the IRS Data Retrieval tool. So it may be hard to see, but those 3 questions in the middle basically is going to tell the FAFSA if you qualify or not to do the IRS Data Retrieval tool. So the question says, did you file an amended tax return? So basically, if I did my taxes, the IRS kicked them back and I had to mail them something to sort of fix them, then you're not going to qualify to do the IRS Data Retrieval tool. The other thing that would disqualify you is if you did not file a U.S. tax return. Let's say you filed another foreign tax return, that obviously the IRS is not going to have a record of that. And then if you filed your taxes really recently, like if you just did your taxes and they're not in the system yet, obviously the IRS would not have them yet, so you could not link up in that instance. But all those things aside, normally you're going to be able to go ahead and use that tool to fill in your FAFSA. And it'll just ask you to put in your FSA ID again there to verify who you are at that point. And then it links you to the IRS's website. You fill in some information for them, they verify who you are, and then it'll say, would you like to transfer your information? And you say yes at that point. The last screen is just the signature page. So it'll give the student's signature and also the parent's signature. You want to agree to the terms and conditions there, fill in the FSA ID again, and then hit sign, and then you can submit the FAFSA from there. So now we have a small timeline here of sort of what we should be doing right now. So from between now and February, which is again most of the priority deadlines for most schools, is going to be right around February 1st or 15th. You want to get your FAFSA in as soon as possible. So it's available now. There's no reason to really wait. We're not waiting on our new taxes come January 1st. We're using 2015 information, so it's stuff that we already know. It's already been completed, so let's just go ahead and do our FAFSA as soon as possible. Again, as you mentioned, there's space on the FAFSA for 10 schools, so if I'm not sure what school I want to go to, let's go ahead and put up to 10 schools on the FAFSA. We don't have to narrow it down beyond that, okay? Also, the admissions applications, a lot of schools have priority deadlines, early decision deadlines, and things like that where you have to apply for admission by a certain date in order to be considered for admission. So you definitely want to start looking at the different deadlines of the schools you might be thinking about. And one more note I want to put out there, a lot of schools will have, so we talked about the FAFSA application and the actual admissions application. A lot of schools will have a third application for their scholarship programs at their institutional scholarships at that school. So again, our date for that is February 1st. So you would need your FAFSA, your admission for your application for admission, and also this third scholarship application, which we call the application for special scholarships. So a lot of times the school will have that third piece of the puzzle. You want to go to their financial aid website and sort of find it. There might be another application that you have to complete in order to be considered for additional scholarship funding. So definitely the schools you're thinking about, start to look around and see if they have a third application as well. And also any external scholarships, those are going to be things like churches, professional organizations, your parents' employer might have a scholarship. So those are just going to be general Google searches pretty much for all of the scholarships you might be able to find online. The more you submit, the better your chances are. It's guaranteed that you will not get one, though, if you don't apply for them. So at the first of the year, between then and April, you will start to get responses from the schools that you apply for, and basically you want to start to compare what you've been offered and start to make your decision and narrow it down from there. All the while, though, you want to continue to apply for those external scholarships because those are going to have rolling deadlines throughout the whole year. So this is our offer here. So this is an example of a shopping sheet. The federal government now requires pretty much every school to have a shopping sheet or something similar to this, where we basically, it'll go over your cost of attendance. So it'll tell you exactly how much the tuition is. It'll give you an estimate of your book costs for the year, and also things like getting back and forth to school, transportation and meals and things of that nature. As you look down on this page, it'll also give you a round number of grant eligibility if you qualify for those. And then the net cost is basically cost of attendance minus the free money, okay? Net meaning what you might have to cover in a loan or out-of-pocket expense, or by work-study funding. So that's going to be out-of-pocket. So basically, like I said, each school is going to have one of these sort of shopping sheets so that you can compare apples to apples. Another good thing on this one is on the top right there, it has a graduation rate. So that's a very important number that a lot of students and parents look at to see how effective that school is in graduating their students. The loan default rate is also going to be on there. It basically tells you how many students are successful in repaying their loans after they're done with the school, which is a good indication of job placement and things like that. And then lastly, the median borrowing number. It'll give you a round number as far as how much a student normally borrows in loans as they complete their degree at that school. So every school is going to have this information readily available on their website. Around May, you want to narrow it down because it's almost time to actually start school. So you want to pay the acceptance fee of the school that you want to attend. Normally you don't pay that more than once because it's non-refundable. And then June, July, your orientations are going to start coming up, so you want to start to attend that. Make your housing arrangements if you want to live on campus or off. There might be additional loan processes that you might have to go through, so you might have to sign some more paperwork for financial aid and things like that. Payment plans if you choose to go that route. And then in August, you want to make sure your tuition bill is paid and then move into your residence hall if that's what you plan on doing, or move into the dorms, and then your classes will start right around the end of August. So that's pretty much our presentation for today. So did we have any questions? I have candy.
And this is our contact information. Even if you're not looking at Ohio State, you can contact our office. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you might have with the FAFSA. We even have families come in and we help them fill out the FAFSA to campus. So please, if you have questions, please feel free to call us and email us. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have. All right, Matt's got candy. What questions?
A lot of parents ask, okay, do I have to take out a loan for my child to go to school? I don't want to be on the hook for any loans. I'll help them with the process, but I don't want to take out a loan. Do I have to do that? The answer is no, okay? So basically, your child, this is their time. They're on their own for the most part. We just ask the parents to assist with the application process. So you're not required to borrow the loan, okay? That's a good question. I'll give the short answer, and then he might want to chime in. Most transfers are pretty much up to that incoming school. So if I go to one school A, it's going to be up to school B whether they accept my credits or not for the most part. But there are some agreements between certain schools, so you might talk about that.
Yeah, this gentleman asked a question about transfer. Will my classes transfer from one college to another college or university? A great website to look at is transferology.org. Transferology.org, you can look up a certain college. Let's say you've got credit through Ohio State, you're looking to transfer to University of Cincinnati. You can see what courses from Ohio State are direct equivalent courses at Cincinnati. So it's a great resource. I look at it quite a bit. Transferology is a great resource to look at transfer credit. Matt did talk about, I'll just again bring that up, that once you are a college student, you want to make sure that you're maintaining a good GPA, that you're showing progress towards your degree. Because if you're not showing progress towards your degree, you don't have a good GPA, you could lose financial aid. coming up the next academic year. So make sure that you check with the college or university to see what their requirements are to maintain your financial aid eligibility. And also, if you fall below full-time status, and full-time status is taken anywhere between 12 to 18 credit hours. So 12 to 18 is typically 4 to 6 classes per semester. Most schools in Ohio, public, they're all on the semester calendar. There's some private schools in the state that are on the quarter calendar, but make sure that if you do fall below full-time, that it could affect your financial aid. So it could reduce the amount of grant money, or you could lose loan eligibility if you fall under a certain threshold. So if you're not full-time, it's going to affect your financial aid, so make sure that you check with your financial aid office. Just another side note to be aware of. Any other questions? Okay, well, if there's no other questions, Matt and I will stick around down here, so if you have individual questions, please feel free to come down and ask. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you for coming this evening, and I just want to do one additional reminder about the FAFSA Help Ohio event at Indian Lake and Riverside High School on November 10th. That's a Thursday from 3:30 to 6. You can get hands-on assistance from our knowledgeable experts from the financial aid offices at a couple of colleges there. We seriously have had people in the past leave those events getting that FAFSA completed in 20 minutes. We allow you to work independently so that nobody's eyeing your personal information, but if you do need help or have a question that you come across, you can simply let somebody know who's there to support you. So great resource if you're a little uncertain about completing that FAFSA. Again, thank you for coming this evening, and if you have questions, please feel free to come to the front of the area.